afternoon. This is Ann Jones and Chad Storley, and we are going to be beginning our webinar entitled Networking Success. We'll be starting right now. The class should be running around 50 minutes long, and we'll be going over a number of different parts of networking. If at any time during the webinar, if you have any questions, please type down on your dashboard where you signed in. You should see a question box. So please type in any questions, and Chad and I will do our best to answer the questions either during the webinar or at the end of the webinar. So let's get going. To introduce, my name is Ann Jones. I'm the founder of Piton Incorporated, a nonprofit for people who experience career change. Former to that, I was the assistant dean at Georgetown's Business School. I oversaw career management for the MBAs and alumni. And I also got to see job acceptance when I was there at that job rise to 98% of our students graduating with a job in hand, up from 63% when I started. So I've been able to see some good changes in some of the things that it calls for to make those kind of changes. And prior to my time at Georgetown, I was at Citigroup, where I was a recruiter and I was a manager of MBA training. And so when I talk to you, I'm sort of putting on my recruiter's hat as well as my career management hat. And I'm here with Chad Storley. Chad?
Good morning and afternoon, everyone. This is Chad Storley, and I'm the author of Combat Leader to Corporate Leader, 20 Lessons to Advance Your Career. And I am probably very much a typical veteran for everyone. I left the active Army, went to Georgetown to get my MBA, and then really kind of initially struggled with how do I apply my military experience into my civilian career to some way that it'll make sense. So one of the things that Ann and I will be doing today, as we do with all our webinars, really looking at it from how do veterans from all services, ranks, and experience translate universal military skills into both their job search and then also into their career and their career advancement, so they can really leverage military skill sets into both advancing their career or getting their career started. So we're going to do a lot of things today to really show how to leverage military experience into career advancement and into a career search. And just a few other things too. I'm also a transition specialist with Afterburner Incorporated, who's an Atlanta-based company that teaches commercial organizations, Fortune 100 companies, how to apply military skill sets and methodologies to their strategy. And I'm an Iraq combat vet and a retired Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel. And then I also have some previous corporate experience with General Electric and Comcast. So any questions that you have, feel free to type them in, and we'll get them to you at the end. And also at the end, Ann and I will have our contact information up and phone numbers, so if you have any other questions. But thanks again for attending, and we will get started.
Great. Hey, thanks, Chad. And so as you can see in our backgrounds, we both do come from pretty different worlds, but we both are aligned with having the goal of having engaged veterans using all of their skills, resources, and networks to succeed. The goals for today, for this webinar, are really three. We're going to focus on what is the concept of networking. We're going to talk about making contacts and two directions that you can go in terms of making contacts. And then finally, informational interviews. We're going to talk about the value of informational interviews and a couple of different ways that you can use informational interviews, as well as some rules of the road. Chad?
One of the things that I think veterans struggle with, and especially in today's economy, is that there's a lot of self-questioning, I think, as you transition either from active duty or from the reserves, or if you were in the reserves, mobilized, and then coming back, kind of questioning yourself to say, hey, can I make this transition work? Everything I hear about the economy is bad. You hear about high unemployment rates, and it makes you question a lot of things, and you can go ahead and build. And then I think this use of skill sets too, because in the military we do a lot of different things and really have a lot of responsibility and value that we create in the military. And so how do I demonstrate all these things that they're going to be of great value to a commercial employer? And what I really like to do is have people start thinking in a I can attitude, and really start to think about understanding a business and getting out there and doing things. And networking is really one of the first steps to do that, because with networking is not only connecting people that you're hopefully going to that will help lead you to an employment, but networking is also learning, having people tell what are their skills, what can they do, and so a veteran can learn about an industry and a company, and then start to think about how they can apply it to. Also, networking, it helps you establish contact with other veterans that are out in the company or in industry, learn about their experiences. Plus, it's a great way to just to learn about different careers, different career tracks, understand mistakes people may have made, and then it's a great way then to pair a lot of these negativities and leverage them through networking and understanding what a veteran can do, and then also having a great attitude to do it too. So it's easy to get down, and trust me, I was there as one of the down. I'll tell you more, but when I first came out, I was applying at that time for the MPA internship process, and the more things I would apply to, the less I got. And so my success actually came through networking. And so Ann and I are both going to share a lot of those really simple methodologies that people can do as they network. So I can get it done. Ann?
Hey, thanks, Chad. I just want to add one more thing. I really like Chad's slide here. As a former recruiter, and I was involved in human resources going back to 1987, when we had the crash in '87, and then of course the dot-com bust, and post 9/11, as well as to today. And it is the people who take that I can attitude who are the ones who not only get through these tough times, but who really thrive. And so I'm really glad Chad put this out here, and he's a great example of it. Okay, let's talk about the concept of networking. When I started working at Georgetown about 6 years ago, I saw that there was a lot less positive attitude about networking than I see today. So I think that's a good sign, especially among men and women coming out of the military. I see a lot of them have a really positive understanding and respect for the value of networking. And I think a lot of that comes from people understanding how important it is for their lives, and also using social networks. That being said, there are still some misunderstandings about what networking is and what networking is not. And so I just want to go over those briefly. So what is networking? One thing it is, networking is a highway system of information, friendship, and support. It's a system that goes in many different directions and provides a number of different things. And that's sort of the way that I like to think about it. Networking is really, it's a way to get you from where you are to where you want to be through the power of people. And I think there's no other sort of clear way to describe it. It is also, though, multi-directional. So not only is it helping you get to where you want to be in terms of learning more information, in terms of getting support, in terms of making contact. It's also valuable in helping you get someone else somewhere, you making contact with other people and you providing contacts for other people. What networking definitely is not. It's not only important when you're looking for a job. Some people only start thinking about networking when they're looking for a job, but once you start and realize its value, it is something that you should be doing all the time, not just waiting for when it's coming to you. One of the most common reasons I hear from people that they don't network is that they feel like they're a phony when they're doing so. And the easiest answer I have for that is be true to yourself. If you're truly asking someone for information and truly out there to share professional information, there's nothing phony or fake about that at all. Certainly if you're pretending to be someone's best buddy just to get a networking, that's not who you are and that's not what you should be doing. But it is certainly never phony or fake. And then finally, of course, it's not a one-way system. I think people who are feeling uncomfortable about networking, the best first step is to find out ways that they can provide information out for somebody else. And so they can be the person that people go to in networking. Now, when it comes to networking, the next thing you need to do, of course, is make connections. Chad, do you have anything on the what is networking here?
No, I'm good. I'd like to really reiterate Ann's point is that networking is authenticity. It's just really being yourself. And when I started networking, it was really going out saying, hey, I've been on active duty for 12 years, served in Iraq, and I really want to try to get into a manufacturing organization in the central United States. Can you talk to me and talk about how your company interacts with some manufacturing companies and some other people that would be good for me to talk to? As simple as that and direct as that. And that, I think, is really what pays off. It's not going in there saying, hey, look at my job, initially look at my resume. Those things will come as that networking relationship develops. But it's that simple authenticity that really makes a networking contact a good start. Ann?
Hey, thanks. All right, let's talk about making connections. There are two basic ways about going out and making connections when you're starting to network. One is to look at who you know and start from you and who are the people around you. And the other way is to look at where you want to be and begin to backtrack and say, who do I know who's connected to it? So let's look at both ways. First, let's start with who we know. Start a list and grow with it. And I'm going to recommend that maybe you try this after this class. Just put out a piece of paper and a pen and write down, you've got you, and write down family, friends, and work. These don't need to be the super best, most connected contact you need. What you really need for each of these, for your family, your friends, and your work, do I know one or two people that are related to me and my family that are doing a job that I'm interested in or working in an area that I'm interested in? From my friends, my high school friends, the people I go fishing with, are there one or two people who are doing a job that I'm interested in doing or used to do a job that I'm interested in doing? From the job I do now or maybe a previous work relationship, do I have any contacts? So just begin to just put those contacts down. And if you sort of say, well, listen, I've got my uncle and he's got a friend who I know works for Coke, and I have a cousin who worked in Atlanta and she would know about that, and I have a high school buddy who's got a strong LinkedIn list. I know when we sent out this the registration, a lot of you put down that you use LinkedIn already, so that's great. So you begin to start just making this list, and if you can begin to write it out, it will begin to jog your memory. And really, once you have this list, you can begin to reach out. And if each of those people have one or two contacts, that's when you really begin to grow your list. And so even if you feel like, gosh, I really don't know anyone in the business where I want to be, or I'm not even sure where to begin, just by beginning to write down some names, just a few names can really get you going. Chad?
I think I came at this networking initially, and I was moving industries. I didn't have any of these other contacts. And so what I actually did was I went to basically to the websites of the companies that I wanted to work with, and looked for people in the middle rows. And we're going to talk about these different layers here in a minute. But look for people in the middle layers of management, and I would do just some Google News searches on the companies to find names of executives, and then I would start writing them an introduction letter. This
Great.
is me. This is a few points about me, and then this is how I got going, and I would slowly start to send these lists out. And when I would get a contact, I would always ask, hey, thanks for contacting me. I really appreciate that. Do you have 2 or 3 other people that I could talk to? And this is where networking really starts. And this can be done, too, on not just a major corporation. It could be, hey, these are some earth-moving construction companies in the Columbus, Ohio area. And I'll start with a list there, and I'll look at the companies that I want to work for, look for their competitors, and look for some of their suppliers. And pretty soon you can have a pretty big list of people just by starting down this. And then once you start making contacts, then that's where you always ask, hey, who are 2 or 3 people that would be good for me to talk to, that I could learn about this industry, what will make me have a successful career in this industry, and then that's really how you get going. Anne?
Hey, Chad, that's perfect. And it, Chad's experience is very similar actually to my own. I actually lived in England for 3 years, and when I came back to live in New York City, I had to start making contacts to get a job. And really, I just started out with a list of people who had gone to the same school that I had gone to, and really nothing more in depth than calling and leaving a message saying, "Hello, my name is Ann Jones. I know we went to the same school. I'm interested in working in finance, and I know you're in finance. Would you have a few minutes to meet with me to talk about what you do?" Nothing more in depth than that, and that's how I got the ball rolling. So that's talking with people. We're going to talk to Chad. Also talked about like what he did, which was going after companies. So we talked about people. Also, you can start with a company list, and that was really smart. Sort of saying he knew what he wanted. He knew he wanted manufacturing, and to begin to list what interested in him, and notice where he sticked, and looking at different segmentations and looking at competitors and just getting out there. There are a couple of ways when you're just starting about a company list that I would recommend. One is to look at sites, especially for veterans. Look at sites like Military Edge has a list of companies that have been rated the best for vets. It's certainly not the only list, but it's a really great starting off point, as well as something called the Book of Lists, which you can get in a library, which will talk about geographically different companies in your area. Chad?
I think that geography too, and not just if there's one company, then to also look at their competitors too, because that will really help broaden the field. And this information, once you start to get it and you start to look at their development, it's really important to note too the age and the type of people that you're going to be interacting with and that you're trying to network with, because the method that you choose to contact them becomes important, because most executives will receive anywhere from 300, 600, sometimes emails a day. So a lot of times trying to send an email, even though it's very convenient for you, is not the best way. That's why I will always encourage people to use some type of a letter writing, or you can always develop a postcard about yourself for 15, 20 cents and send that out as a way to network, because you want to use a method of communication that's going to differentiate you and really show them how important you are. And that company list too, it will be very helpful, because this executive will see, hey, I get X hundred emails a day. Oh, here's a personal letter to me. I get maybe one of these a week. I'm going to stop and read that. That's different. And making that initial contact and getting notice is a very critical part of networking, because remember, you have to think this one contact will introduce you to 3 people, and then each one of them will introduce you to 3 people. So just by making that one successful contact, you now have a potential for 12, 15 other contacts. And when someone refers you by name, saying, "Hey, I am Chad Storley. I want you to talk to John. He's a good guy. I think you'd like to talk to him." Great recognition, and so having a way to communicate that will differentiate you is very important. Anne?
Great. Hey, thanks, Chad. And he's absolutely right. You will
Anne?
see, yes? You will see how it will grow from a very small list to a very large list very fast. And so with that, being able to manage that's important. And I think Chad has a really terrific
And can you advance the next slide, please?
Has a really great way of talking about this.
Yeah, this is an organization method that I developed called PACE. In the military, we use PACE, standing for Primary, Alternate, Contingency, and Emergency. And it's the reason that we did that is that PACE would be used anytime there was something really, really critical that we had to get done. Medical evacuation, ammunition resupply. We'd always want at least 4 different ways to make sure that this critical activity got done, just so it would not fail. And your career advancement and job searches is one of those no-fail situations. So what we would do, what this list does, is it gets you, lists the people that you want to contact with their name, their contact information, when you met them, and a follow-up, and then has the primary company or companies that you want, alternate, contingency, and emergency. So what it does for you is it helps you establish a plan, a backup plan, a backup to the backup, and then a final contingency with a bunch of different people in here. Knowing, too, that all of these will lead you to different other contacts, and this PACE way helps you keep organized. When are you talking to people, and when you're able to contact them, what were the results of the contact and everything. So that's very, very helpful. Anne?
Can you hear me? Thanks, Chad. Now let's talk about the informational interviews.
The next part right now is the informational interviews, which is very helpful as a way to get information. Once you've done that initial contact, then what you do is you set up a informational interview, a time to get together to exchange information and answer any questions, and then you can also get any other contacts or things like that. And so that's a very good way to do it.
Yeah. Thanks, Chad. And I'm going to sort of get up.
And did you have anything to add?
I do. Thanks. Can you hear me?
the
Thanks.
informational interview, once you set it up, is these informational interviews are really designed initially to be very short. It's a first meeting, and if the first meeting goes well, then you'll have other meetings that'll be able to be set up. So it's not too bad just because you don't necessarily want to set it up for an hour or something like that. So, but having this informational interview, it's get an introduction, and again, this is not a job interview, but what you should do is treat it as a job interview. So you should be punctual, you should be professionally dressed, and you should do research on the person and the company that you're meeting with, so you express an interest in what they do.
Thanks, Chad. And the informational interview is a really probably one of the best ways, certainly during this economy.
Okay, we're having a little bit of a technical problem right now, so excuse me, please.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, we should be good on the mute. The best thing about informational interviews is it really allows you to be ready for what we call that at bat. So when you get that final interview, you're really ready to go. I'm a big fan of informational interviews, and I want to go over three things, three reasons why I really like informational interviews, as well as some ways of thinking about them. The first is the importance on referral. A lot of you use things like Monster.com and a lot of online sites to apply for jobs, and you absolutely should. That is a terrific way to get jobs. But the fact is a lot of jobs are out there and are being offered before they even hit the online site. I like to think of this in the first of the 4 stages of a job search, because that first stage is when there's no job opening, but people are always looking to hire good workers. And so if you're out there networking, people know who you are, and they begin to see who you are, and they want to pick you up when they can. At second stage is people begin to know, let's say you know in a business that we need to have someone as a manager, but you haven't quite figured out what that person is going to look like. You haven't written up the job description. At this point, as first and second stage, you're only competing with yourself, right? So if you're out there networking and getting your name out there, you're really only in competition with yourself. The third stage, of course, is when they've decided to hire. Someone, and as a former recruiter, if I was going to hire someone, I would often call my contacts and say, hey, this is what I'm hiring for. Do you know anyone you might want to recommend? Again, if you're out there networking and you're talking about your interests, you're on the tip of people's tongues, and they know who you are. So if you can get in these first 3 stages, you're going to be far more likely to get that job before it goes on Monster.com, and you're more likely to get a job that really matches who you are. Once you get to that 4th stage, once it appears, in a classified ad on Monster.com, unfortunately it's also a numbers game, and so getting out there first is important. Chad?
Sorry, a little tough technical difficulty. The real help with networking is identifying these opportunities early on and being the first one in there to help see them, and that's really where it's of critical help. Anne?
Great, thanks. The second part about networking, and again, this comes from doing multiple informational interviews, is getting a better understanding of what your value is to the employer. Now, as an employer and as a recruiter, I only have a very short amount of time and very little information to choose whether you're the right person to hire. Therefore, you need to be able to know what are the key things, the key strengths that you have that are going to match my needs. And the best way to know that is to get out there and to meet with people in the industry, in a company you're interested in a competitor of a company you're interested in. And so when you do get that chance to apply, you can use those key words that are going to match what I'm interested in. And that's really what it takes to get your foot in the door. So this constant informational interview and meeting with people, you're not only gathering information, but you're beginning to gather feedback. You're talking about your own strengths, and you begin to learn what other people are interested in the strengths you have. And so picking up on those cues helps you refine your message. Chad, do you have anything to add to that slide?
One of the great parts about this is when you start networking and talking to people and learning more and more about their business is that you will think that sometimes that this circle, this overlap piece may be very, very small in the sense that your strengths and the things that you can do don't have a lot to do for them. But in fact, when you talk to people, you learn more about the company, about the industry, and it gives you a good chance to think about all the things that you can do. And so this overlap actually may be quite large. Anne?
Thanks, Chad. And the third sort of reason for networking and the way to think about networking, I like to talk about the sort of pyramid effect. And again, it comes back to that sort of that at-bat, getting that job interview. So you've got that job interview, and we're looking at the top where the decision maker is. When you're meeting with the decision maker, we're hoping, the decision maker's hoping that you already have a complete knowledge of the job you're applying for, the industry, the function, what the skills are. And the way you're going to get that is you're going to have met already and talked already with what I call the base, the informers. Informers, the people who sort of make up the base of your networking, are people who can give you basic information about what the company's like. They may not be able to get you a job. They probably can't get you a job. But they can say, here's what it's like to work in this company. Here's what we wear to work every day. Here are the things that drive the boss crazy. Here are the things that they're trying to do in the next 5 years. Here's something that you should keep your eye out for. So the more you can get yourself to do a lot of networking with these informers who will introduce you, who will give you information and introduce you to what I call the influencers. That is the people who can sort of recommend you to somebody who might hire you, a decision maker. Chad?
A good networking campaign is really helps just when you hit people at all these different levels. So when you're targeting an influencer and then they send your information up to a decision maker or an informer, and so you're coming at this from multiple levels. That really helps people make a difference and really see that your strong interest in an organization. Hey, Anne, could you go back to slide 15 for a second, please? We just had a quick question on there. The fourth stage.
Is that it? Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I really like this slide because I do think it's a good reminder of of where your power is as a job hunter, and your power really is in those first and second stages. So.
And then on slide 15 too for a second.
Before or after?
The slide before.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Good. We can go ahead and go back to where we were.
Perfect. So I want to show this to you. This is something called Patricia Buchek's 355+ strategy. you don't have to use this sort of worksheet, but I think it really works. And Patricia Buchek is a career specialist in the DC area. And she uses this worksheet with her clients to help them prepare not only for interviews but also for informational interviews. The more prepared you are, and I love the fact that Chad talked about being prepared as if it is a job interview itself, the better able you are to get the most out of that informational interview. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I really liked it. Now, we're going to go over just a typical informational interview. So this is a typical informational interview agenda. And, you know, let's say it's for Chad Storley, and he reached out to a number of people. He went through his network. He's talked to people. He sent out cards, and he's got an informational interview. If it's at 10 a.m., this is just sort of good sort of protocol. He arrives 5 minutes early to check in, especially if you're going to a business office where you have to show an ID. He probably has a copy of his resume in a portfolio. He may not show it, but he has it in case somebody wants to see it. He's always prepared. And he's dressed as if it were a job interview. Now, as the meeting starts, one of the things that Chad would do if he's holding an informational interview or having an informational interview is he's initially setting the tone for the meeting, saying thank you and reminding the person he's meeting with why he's having the meeting. Now, I'm here because I'm interested in getting into manufacturing, and I'm really interested in learning more about this company and how it works. And then he also does what I call the Team A, or the tell me about yourself. So it gives him a chance very early on to sort of give his pitch, his sort of 30-second, this is who I am, this is where I'm coming from. He's already gone on to the website, and he's already gone on and written out and decided a couple of key questions about this company. So he's super prepared. Chad is not going to go and ask in an interview, he's not going to ask questions that you could just look up on the web. So he's already gone to the web, he's gotten some key information, and from that, he's written some questions. He keeps an eye on the time and makes sure that the interviewer, the person that's meeting with him, doesn't feel put out. And he always finishes with, thank you, is there anyone else that you could recommend that I speak with? So he never leaves empty-handed. And that afternoon, he mails or emails his thank you note with specifically how they offered help and what his next steps would be. Chad, does that speak to how you might do an informational interview?
Yep, that's a great example.
Great. Now I'm going to add just a real quick one. Career fair agenda, because a lot of you go to career fairs. You can do the informational interview in a shorter form at a career fair. A couple of quick things before I go to the career fair. I make my A list and B list of companies. My A list is, boy, would I love to work for them. B list is, I'd be interested in learning more. Day of the career fair, and I do my preparation. Day of the career fair, I visit that B list first, right? Try to do those practice swings. I do the tell me about yourself, and I ask those real questions. So in each booth, I'm setting up a mini informational interview. I think career fairs are one of the best ways to practice your pitch and to get those informational interviews going. And it's also a great way to make more contacts. Remember, if you go to a career fair and you have a great talk with somebody, it's fine to say, is there anyone else who's not at the booth today that I might want to talk to? So you can follow up with that. Chad?
And the PACE plan that I showed you too can also be used for career fairs. So if there's a number of them that you want to go to, make sure you keep track of who you've talked to. So if you do have some companies that are really important to you, then you can make sure that you target them and make sure that if you see them at multiple locations to really show your interest. And then it helps too to see if there's a different company that you're interested in that you hadn't hit before, then you can get that a priority on your A list to make sure that you get them. So this PACE methodology works for a lot of different aspects of both career planning and for career advancement. Anne?
Great. Hey, thanks, Chad. Quick thing about the tell me about yourself. That sort of, that's a question that can really be a great entree to a terrific conversation. So make the most of it. And I say keep it absolutely simple. I like to do the tell me about yourself in 5 easy pieces. Piece 1, your introduction. Hello, my name is Ann Jones. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. 2, 3, and 4 are 3 key skills or 3 key things I need to know about you, right? Assume that the person that you're talking to only can keep so much in their brain. You want to make sure that you trim your introduction to the 3 key things that you want them to turn around and tell about you if they're talking about you to someone else. And then the 5th of the 5 easy pieces is where would you like to take these skills and experiences. I've got up here an example of somebody's tell me about yourself that they used as their pitch. I do suggest you don't memorize it. It's like you wouldn't memorize a joke, but you do practice this over and over. I write out my pitch the first time. I practice it a few times, and every time I give my pitch, I begin to notice what are people interested in about my pitch, what do they remember, and I continue to refine. Anything on the pitch you want to add, Chad?
Nope, that's great.
Great. All right. Key things about networking, like I said in the beginning, and Chad also said, is it's not a one-way thing. It is the important thing about networking. It's in multi-direction. Do you want to talk about this slide?
The great part is that the reciprocation is really a strong way for you to follow up to make sure that you're remembered. And if there's specific things that you talked about, such as a new business opportunity that they were working on, then that's a great way to have articles to send them just to show, hey, this is a piece that I found on this, or this is what one of your competitors is doing, just to make sure that you saw that. That really helps cement with people that you are paying attention. And I also like for reciprocation too, as a thank you note, either an email or just a quick written card, just to say, hey, thanks for meeting with me. A couple of follow-up things, and if there's any other people that you can introduce me to, that really helps, because a big part of networking is that making sure that you're constantly expanding your network, and reciprocation is a way to make sure that you stay right in the center of people's memory. Anne?
Thanks, Chad. Let's just, as we begin to wrap up, I want to talk about some serious etiquette for networking. Couple of things to always keep in mind. Number 1, be clear about what you're asking. People want to help. People really do want to help. They want to have informational interviews. They want to network with you, but you need to be clear. And so be very straightforward. I'm wondering if you could talk to me about how, what it's like to work in this industry. If people think that you're only talking about trying to get a job and they don't have a job on offer, they're going to feel uncomfortable. So be very clear. Number 2, absolutely be over-prepared. And Chad brought it up earlier in an earlier class. You never know when you'll be in the middle of an informational interview and someone might say, hey, can you meet with so-and-so right now? So always be over-prepared. Be mindful of people's time. Say thank you. People really do love to help other people. It makes us feel good about ourselves. It makes us feel like we've had an impact. And by saying thank you and reminding people that they have had an impact on your career search, that can have a lot of meaning. Respect people's reputation. This one is absolutely vital. If someone makes a reference, refers you to another contact, they're putting their political capital on the line for you. And so if you're late for an informational interview where somebody had made the introduction for you, or you don't follow up, it not only reflects poorly on you, but more importantly, it reflects very poorly on the person who recommended you. And so be very careful and be aware that you're holding somebody else's reputation in your hand. And then finally, be aware of too much information. When you're having an informational interview, it can be more casual than a job interview, but be careful not to stray into too personal areas. Keep those separate. Chad?
Just even though it's an informational interview and you're networking, you're constantly being evaluated, and you want to just ensure that you put your best foot forward. And sometimes the too much information is you just want to make sure that you present the best part of you, and as you get more of a relationship and the relationship deepens with this one person, then that's a time that you both can decide if you're going to share more information. So just make sure that these initial networking meetings are crisp and clean, and you leave a good impression, demonstrate your professionalism, what you can bring to an organization or to an industry, and then look for how you can help expand that network. Anne?
Great. Hey, thanks, Chad. In summary, good networking requires strong planning and multiple options. And again, I think Chad's PACE plan really spells that out well. Seek to contact people in ways that make you stand out with letters and postcards. And I like the fact that Chad does that. Networking leads you to multiple offers, better knowledge, and shows what to do to improve. So just continue. It's a continual refining process. And it can lead to other things. It can lead to finding a mentor for the long term. Good networking can take months. It can even take years. I'm constantly amazed that people will contact me and say, well, we're looking to hire someone, and have you met anybody in this area? And I'll remember back somebody who's been networking with me in the past. And that positive attitude is, when in doubt, take action. Hey, Chad, you want to add to the summary?
Having a good plan is really what will help make networking effective for you, and keeping track of people, because that way you can always look to make sure, did I follow up with this person? What's my next step? I am interested in these two companies, but I only have contacts at one, so I need to expand my efforts for the second company. Staying organized will really help you do that and make sure that you get your network as big as you want to. And I wouldn't make sure to, as you plan, that you should expect to have, if you're doing letters, expect to have maybe a quarter of them returned. So if you do send a letter, then don't be afraid to follow up with a phone call. And if that doesn't work, just having someone else in line there to do that. So making sure that you have a wide array of people. Don't just send 5 letters, send 20, because that having a large network will really help. And the worst thing that can happen, if you send a lot of letters, you get a lot of responses. So in this case, more is better. Just make sure that you can handle all the contacts as they come in. Anne?
Great. Thanks. Yeah, and handling those contacts, I think, is absolutely crucial, because you will find out that the more you network, the more contacts you get. I want to talk, as we summarize up, a couple of our next classes, and then we have a few questions here that I want to answer. So So our next upcoming classes, we have next Tuesday we'll be doing another networking success class. And then on March 4th and March 8th, we'll be doing Plan, Prepare, Execute, which is a class we also did earlier, which is about career strategy. And then on March 18th, we'll be doing another networking success. Now this March will be coming out with our spring-summer schedule. And I know that a few of you have asked about different times. So when you get a chance to provide feedback, please let us know if there's a time that works better for you that we can add into our webinars, as well as if there's a topic that's important to you that you want to make sure that we touch on. I wanted to also highlight that some of the questions that we receive, we will also answer on our website. And this is just a screenshot from my website. I have a couple of blog postings. One of my blog postings on mine is 3 book recommendations that I spoke about in the Plan, Prepare, Execute. So if you want to learn about those book recommendations, they're there. The second is a networking jerk, how not to be one. So it's a little of do's and don'ts for networking. And we'll also be answering some other questions there. And you can also sign up for other webinars on that website and ask questions and have and purchase slides and teaching notes. Chad, anything on the upcoming classes?
No, the Plan, Prepare, Execute is another good framework where we use, again, military skill sets to help plan. And so really what we're trying to do both with networking and Plan, Prepare, Execute is through Ann's research and a lot of my interactions, we've really identified that having a good, succinct career plan with lots of backups and then networking are kind of some of the 2 areas where a lot of veterans struggle. There's a lot of really good services out there for job fairs, for people with resume and cover letter writing, but we want to help people just with the career planning portion, making sure they have that, and then networking. Those are 2 big areas that we really want to try to help people with. Ann?
Great, thanks. I want to now take you to some of the stuff that's on Chad's website, which is the Combat Leader to Corporate Leader, because he's got some terrific resources on there. Chad, actually, do you want to just talk about what's on your website?
Sure. In the on the news tab, that in the news that's in the upper left-hand corner, there's about 25 different publications that have covered some of the things that I do. In each of these publications, there's always some tips and interviews for veterans and different ways that they can apply military skill sets to business. And then on I also have a column on military.com, which ends every column ends with 3 tips for veterans how they can apply that skill set either to their career or to for career planning. And then right in the lower left-hand portion of the page, the resources. These are different PDFs that have career planning and skills about how to do it. And then the book Combat Leader to Corporate Leader is both on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Ann?
Great. Hey, thanks, Chad. As we come to the end of this webinar, I want to thank all of you for being on here, but I certainly especially want to thank Chad Storley. Chad donates his time and his experience to these webinars. He is a consummate networker, and he's been, a lot of his successes are due to the fact that people have talked about him and have shared the information about him. So he's a great example of networking in action. I really encourage all of you to make a list of possible people to network in the next 3 or 4 days. Make a list and then just begin to reach out. If you can have maybe 3 informational interviews a week, you're going to be amazed at how fast your list grows. And you're also going to be amazed how well versed you are in the job you want when that interview becomes available. So I encourage you all to get out there and start networking, and please let us know how we can make our webinars better and more effective for you. Thanks again. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.